not being true, but they don't have a clue, 'cause this is me when I cut out all the shallowness and everything I suppress to fit in a small frame, but I won't play your game anymore, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am, this is who I am now. No matter what they're saying, this is who I am, this is who I am now. I'm gonna let them talk, but I ain't following nobody else. How can I be resentful when I finally respect myself? I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness they turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am, this is who I am now. No matter what they're saying, this is who I am, this is who I am now.
Nice, nice. Jen Silbernagel, the best thing that she may have ever said, taking a 1-year-old to a cottage is a different experience now, Jen.
Yes, not we didn't think ahead on that one. Not what we were picturing, but ultimately fantastic and great family time and all of that. We spent lots of time in the water, but yeah, we had a different picture in our minds than what the experience was at the end of the day, but we figured it out.
Yeah, it's all good. And that's
Yeah.
what I love. I remember there was so many, okay, I'm going to call it like it is. You're a young parent. I'm maybe not.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were young parents, everyone kept saying to us, just like live life like you normally do. And you know what? That might have been some of the best stuff we've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different because now you got an extra set of eyes or a body or a human to look after.
Yeah. That plan of reading the book on the deck, that's not a thing.
No.
But the experience of, being there and her experiencing all that for the first time was like, we wouldn't trade that for the world. It was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So like,
Yeah.
is she eating mud and sand and everything else now?
Mainly just sticks and rocks. She likes
Good.
to taste those.
Yeah.
Sand, she actually didn't like very much. She wasn't a big fan of the sand. But the
Smart.
water, she kept trying to drink the lake water when she was in it. She thought that was hilarious. It's pretty
Yeah.
cute, actually. Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
remember having our kids at the beach, and yeah, you forget that sand gets in every nook and cranny and everywhere else.
That is true. Yeah. That part was definitely true.
It's all good. It's all good. So evidently this is a real estate show somewhere in it. And we've kind of taken the month of August off in a sense from hosting KWRC TV. And Jen said earlier, it's kind of quiet, but on the flip side, it may not be. So we're going to talk about what's happening in the market. And then of course over the last week or so, basically every government party has launched their platform, and along within that platform for the upcoming election is their housing platform or their housing plan. So Jen and I thought it'd be good to kind of go through a couple of them or a few of them and just kind of digest it and kind of figure out what it means. And just like any platform, there's going to be good stuff. There might be stuff you don't agree on, but I think, if we could just take all of them, put them all together, then we'd be laughing. It would be awesome.
Yeah. There's a solution in there somewhere. That's for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And we'll mention this throughout it too. Like, it doesn't matter what party gets in place. In a sense, it's what we have to work with, right? So it's being able to be adaptable and to move along with that. So the party of your choice might not get into power, but that's okay. I think what makes great realtors is the fact that they can adapt. Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing that we have the support behind us with our different, organizations and regulating bodies that will help us adapt, right? And help us adjust and give us some guidance that way as well. Whether it's just your brokerage or it's CREA or RICO or ORIA, or whoever that comes from. That's the nice thing about our industry, right? It does flex a little bit when we need it to. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's roll the intro and get this show underway.
Yep.
All right. Well, why don't we just pull up the slide with all the information on it, and we'll kind of go through it, digest it a little bit, and see where the conversation takes us, because there is some great ideas here, but there's also some, just like any platform, it's going to leave questions or concerns depending on how you look at it. So this was floating around over the last few days, and I thought it would be important for us to kind of go through and have a look at it, see what it means. And of course, it's got the Conservative, the Liberal, and the NDP party there. And last week it was the Liberals that launched. I don't want to say first, but they got the most exposure from it because they had a big campaign around this. And there are some good things in here, and there are some questionable things in all of these, not just the Liberal, but all of these. Let's be very clear here, right, Chad?
And I mean, that's the case with every platform and every election. There's some stuff that you're going to like and it's going to make sense. And there's some stuff that is going to be questionable regardless of which party platform you're looking at. But absolutely, there's definitely a range of that is smart and makes perfect sense to what is happening.
And if you've got questions, if you're watching live with us or on the replay, drop them in there to the notes. Again, this is for informational basis only, and we're going to talk to these points with our realtor hat on, in a sense, and also investor hat, as well as a homeowner, because that's part of, if we look at some of these, and I'm going to jump in and around here, but a lot of this, a lot of the platforms here, hey, Stacy, we see you there, is all about home ownership and making home ownership attainable, which I think, Jen, you and I think across Canada, we would all agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an interesting couple of years, and for first-time home buyers or people entering the market, specifically, and for everybody, really, truthfully, but specifically for that group, and doing anything we can to help people get that opportunity is always going to be, in the best interest of everybody across the board. So I think, that is the key to what we pull from here and what we look at, right? How is it going to benefit us regardless of which party it is?
Absolutely. So let's just kind of roll along the top here. So the Conservatives are pledging to build 1 million homes within 3 years. Liberals, you can see there, build, repair 1.4 million homes over the next 4 years. And NDP taking a slightly different approach and building 500,000 affordable homes in 10 years. And all those things are great. The kind of the main perspective here, Jen, and we always hear this, is especially from developers, we're happy to build. We want to build. We want to build as fast as we can, but we get slowed down from from the, what's the word I'm looking for, from the
The
local
bureaucracy.
government and the bureaucracy in a sense on,
Yeah.
they acquire land, and by the time that they get their shovel into it can be years later because of the permit process. The planning process takes time and
Yeah.
effort to go through, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's tedious to get to that breaking ground point. And the fact that all of the parties are acknowledging that something needs to happen there is great. I guess the bigger question is how are they going to do it, which in these sort of scenarios is never, those answers are never given, right? But I think that it's definitely something that if we could speed that up or find ways to maneuver that red tape a little bit so that it was a little more efficient, that would definitely solve some of our inventory issues that we're having right now, right?
Absolutely. And the interesting piece here too, Jen, I shared this in a video that I did last week, is from this perspective, the federal government really has no, I don't want to say jurisdiction, but this is not in their sandbox.
Right.
The sandbox that gets held up in a sense is that your local government, right? The towns and those building offices, that's where it gets slowed down, because obviously there's rules and regulations that have to be followed, but that's the part that that's where we all have questions. Well, then what are you going to do? How are you going to make it easier?
Right.
Because they got to work with the local governments to make this much easier. And I think we would all agree that, yes, we want to be able to get the shovel in the ground faster. It's just how that's going to happen. Now, this next one here too is really interesting. So basically we can see from the conservative and the liberal government that they want to do a 2-year ban on foreign buyers, and the NDPs are looking at a 20% foreign buyers tax. And I got to say, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say confused, but I don't know. There's lots I could say. So we want, when our economy is going well, people are bringing, foreign investment is coming to Canada.
Yeah.
Right. And you want to like stop that in a sense from this perspective. And that's the part that I'm like, I don't know if that's the right solution here,
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think stopping it completely or banning it is maybe the right route to go here. Maybe making it harder or more regulations or more requirements, something along those lines would benefit more. Or even, discussing more of the vacancy rates and what that looks like, as opposed to banning the cash flow that could be coming in, right? I don't know. That's a tricky one. I know a lot of people feel that if we remove that, then it would be easier for Canadian residents to get into the market. But ultimately, I think that it's not a small portion, but it's one factor of our market, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there, in certain market centers like a Toronto or a Vancouver, we have foreign investment that happens a lot here. As you get into some of the smaller communities around Canada, it's like you said, it's such a small percentage of their market. It's not going to do anything to their market, their local market, right? So if you're in Calgary or Edmonton or Regina, I'm just trying to think of names. That foreign investment market might be so small, it might not even do anything to your local market.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, always look at this from, well, how does this affect not only Canada, but how does this affect me living in wherever you happen to be or investing or looking to buy in? The next one is to me, I think would be well welcomed. Yeah. By a lot of people. Ease the stress test requirements for self-employed contractors. Let's kind of stop there, and then we'll go over the next couple. That, as realtors, we are self-employed, right?
Yeah.
We fall into that category.
For sure. Yeah. And selfishly, I think, so we would agree with that, right? Of course, we want it to be a little less strenuous to kind of get access to that cash that we're looking for to make those investments. But we also work with a lot of self-employed. Like I do feel in the last few years, more and more people are going into that realm of either being self-employed or contracted versus salaried employee status. And it does impact their spending power right now a little bit more, I think. It is a lot harder, right? So easing up on that, or changing it, or having a different model for the different types of applications, maybe would help with that a little bit. I can see that would help, I think, a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And this next one under the liberal platform there, the homeowner bill of rights, to ban blind bids. So multiple offers, you would see, or you would learn to know what the other bids are, and give people the legal rights for inspection and transparency.
It's a
There's
lot
a
there.
whole lot of stuff there. And,
Mhm.
reading through the different threads and posts on social media over the last week, you have buyers that are for this. You also have buyers that are against this. And of course you have sellers that are for and against this too. And the ones that take the time, Jen, to kind of understand what this means is there are buyers that love the multiple, or sorry, there are sellers that want that opportunity to have that multiple offer in our current
Sure.
system, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know they're leaning on research and information in different countries like New Zealand, Australia. They have this scenario, yet
Mhm.
their market is on fire, so it has not slowed it down one bit.
No, no, I know. It is interesting, right? When the market is moving, the economy is in a good position. Real estate is a popular area, right? It does tend to boom. I don't know that um, changing how we do things is necessarily the right answer here. So much in regard to the process, so much as protecting buyers' rights a little bit more. And I know that going back to the different threads and stuff I was reading. I think it was Real Estate Hacks. I'm going to say it was that group. Barry LeBeau, who is well known, been in the industry a very long time. He posted a comment yesterday about this topic, somewhat a version of this, and he was talking about he processes cases through Rico, and that he reviews them and gives input, and he talks about the cases. And he said what they've seen in the last year or so as not only have the number of cases against agents increased significantly, like almost by double, a lot of it has to do with home inspections and that removal of that condition, and the buyers going in with a firm offer because that's what it takes to buy the home, and then finding out that the home essentially borderline needs to be condemned, right? After the fact, when you've already bought a firm deal and are locked into a legal binding agreement. So how do we protect our buyers from that situation, to me, is more important than how the offer process is handled. You know what I mean? Like, if you have an agent, two agents on both sides that are educated, that know what to look for, and that are teaching their clients appropriately, then we shouldn't have that happening. So is it an issue with our education process, with our licensing process, with our brokerage's responsibility? Where's that fall into this type of category versus blind bids versus not blind bids, right? I don't know if that's the biggest caveat to hang your hat on right now.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a big part of their platform too, from the liberal perspective. The other
Mm-hmm.
piece in here too is the legal right for inspection. Well, you have the legal right for inspection. It's your choice in order to have that on your purchase and sale agreement, right?
Yeah.
And maybe there's, obviously there's going to be a happy medium in all of this. In order to accept a multiple offer situation, maybe a pre-inspection report has to be provided. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what that looks like, or the ramifications, or even the logistics of that, but perhaps that's something. And there's a whole nother realm there too, because here's the other crazy thing, and this is not the topic of conversation today, but maybe it will be one day, is home inspections. Well, there's no national governing body like there
Yeah.
is for realtors, right?
Which is so crazy when you think about it, right? Like, that always blows my mind that there's not a regulating body, and that it's not overseen really, other than that they need to have obviously insurance and things like that. But beyond that, it's kind of is what it is, right? It's a weird industry that way, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Moving on, because we got lots to go through here.
Yeah.
From the NDP column there, the third down, eliminate federal HST, GST on affordable home and rental projects. So this is interesting. And again, a great idea. The question that I have, though, is, well, what's affordable?
Yeah.
Right. That would save 13% on, a big renovation or a cost like that. Or are we talking like, paint and that other thing? Like where does it stop? I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept, though.
Yeah, I mean, again, that requires just a little more explanation or understanding as to what the thought process is there. If it's, purchasing the property itself, then obviously that's significant. But like you said, if it's more just home improvement projects, I don't think that's the biggest the biggest issue we have right now is that HST on those costs. So it just depends, I guess, on what they mean by that. And that's what's hard with these kind of when they roll out their platforms, because it's just all bullet point, right? There's no
Yeah.
detail. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Here's the root of the issue is supply. Right?
Yeah.
So how do we increase
100%.
supply? And that's the question. If you're basing your voting on this in the next couple of weeks on the election, the Canadian election, and you want to understand it from a real estate perspective, we need to increase supply. So anything in here that's going to increase supply is going to just slow that pricing acceleration down, right, Jen? Like that's really what it boils down to here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for us to get back on track, I think we're going to talk about this a little later when we talk about kind of it's quiet, but it's not. Is that our demand is just it's through the roof in our area, especially the GTA and surrounding areas, even going north of here. So, how do you create enough supply that it matters? Because that's really a bigger question as well. I think that's something that has to be looked at for sure.
Yeah. And moving right along, so back to the conservative side, encourage investments in purpose-built rentals. This is something that's done now, but not, I think there's a lot more that could be done here. Again, we've got, and we're not talking about the mom and pop investors like, myself, for instance, because there always are going to be that segment. We're talking about the developers and so forth. Exactly. Yeah. And developers are in it for a reason. Mm-hmm. And it's dollar signs, right? They want to make money. They have investors that they're responsible to. And depending on the size of that development company, they might be a REIT, for instance, where they're publicly traded. And when they're publicly traded, that means they have to answer to their investors to provide a return. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't, sometimes there are incentives. You build purpose-built, will free up land for you. We'll give you this land, things like that. So anyways, that's interesting. 25% reduction in CMHC. There's more to this one, Jen. I quite honestly, I'll be honest with you right now. I forget what this all encompasses. But I do recall when I went through the information last week that, they do want to make it easier for CMHC to lend or insure properties, I should say, from that perspective. And then the NDP here is rental support of up to $5,000 per family. So what I'm seeing there, Jen, is you might qualify for a $5,000 rental grant, perhaps. From that
that's what I'm getting from that. You can really see that the NDP are focused more on affordability of housing in what we're seeing here versus liberal conservative. I think that, not to compare them, but just to kind of look at the different positions, affordability versus opportunity or the creation of more homes, right? Which are all great perspectives. So it's just a matter of what's going to really make the biggest difference. And I think we skipped one row there about the mortgages, extend the conservatives and the liberal. I think we skipped that.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to touch on that. Yeah, for sure. So I believe they want to add more opportunity. So a mortgage term typically 1, 2, 3, or 5 years. Some lenders will offer a 10-year, some will do 7. So offering more terms like that. I meant to zone in on the liberal idea there of the first time buyer's tax
Yeah.
credit doubling to 10,000. That's a no-brainer. Our market has moved fast enough. It needs to be done.
I mean that should probably already have been done. Like the market has inflated so much, and none of the support has grown with it, right? So that across the board on all parties, I feel like that should be adjusted. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And the NDP there reintroduced the 30-year insured mortgages. So the longest length or amortization you can get right now on insured mortgage is 25 years. So moving that to 30 years as well. And I recall the Liberals also increasing the CMHC amount from 1 million. So you get an insured $1 million loan or mortgage up to 1.25. So again, that's just moving with the market there
With the
as well.
market.
Yeah.
Right. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like this bottom right, bottom left.
But of course you do.
Yeah. And this would, I don't know. Okay. So capital gains deferral on investment properties, if reinvested into an investment property. This isn't going to do anything except put more money into people like me.
Yeah.
It's going to fill our pockets a little bit more, which is good.
Yeah.
I like it though.
Perhaps it will generate more interest in investment properties if you're not getting taxed on that money, as long as you keep it in an income property or an investment property. So maybe people who don't see the value will adjust based on those numbers. I'm not sure if they're looking at trying to generate more purpose-built rentals or get more people into that area, then that's a good way to do it, right? It's a pretty good incentive for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They have something similar in the States I think it's called a 1035 exchange. I don't know why I know that. Those are the weirdest random numbers. Tax deferral, that's always a good thing. If I can just keep pushing the tax bucket down the road, we're happy about that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So the Liberals, they have a rent-to-own project. So that's something that I've done a lot of investing in over the years. That would be a government regulated program, I'm sure, with CMHC's involvement there. There's a lot to unpack there, but again, this is not going to increase supply. It's just a way for people to purchase properties. What we got to do is increase supply. But I like the bottom one there, Jen. I don't know if you caught that. For the Liberals, new tax-free savings account to be used for down payments. This might be the best thing on here for people trying to save up. Because let's think about it. If you can save $10,000 a year, $25,000 a year, let's say you're in a position to save $50,000 a year, which is a lot of money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in order to save that and have $50,000, we are taxed on that before we actually have it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you might have to earn $100,000 just to have that 50,000. That is a lot of earning.
Yes.
A tremendous amount of earning. Or if you have it in some sort of investment vehicle where you're earning 3, 4, 5%, you're taxed on that every year as well. Where this can be a tax-free savings account, just like a TFSA, and you put it in there. And maybe you're young, maybe you're in your early 20s, or I think you have to be 18,
even.
18 to have a TFSA.
Yeah.
This is golden. Just start putting money in there and buying some stocks or some dividend stocks that can earn you money over the time, and it's tax-free. This is amazing.
Yeah, I love this one. This is probably one of the better ones on here for a lot of reasons, but most importantly, it just creates more opportunity. Again, it's more about being able to buy the property versus creating properties or homes and inventory. However, for those buyers that are really struggling to get their first property because the market's growing faster than our incomes are changing, obviously, it's a great tool to help them get there faster, right?
Absolutely.
I think I wish this was around 10 years ago. I mean, that would have been amazing. You could have done a lot with it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And people might say, well, that already exists with the RSP plan that we have. We can put in an RSP. Here's the thing though. If you use your RSP funds, which you should, if you're a first-time home buyer, you should.
Mhm.
The catch is though, we have 15 years to pay that back or we're taxed on
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
in this version of it, there would be no taxing, which
Yeah.
to me is a great thing.
Yeah, and there's a maximum on the RSP plan as
That's
well,
right. Yeah.
right? So that also limits you a little bit more. Whereas I don't know for sure, but I would assume that there's no maximum on this. It's just, I guess you'd have an annual amount possibly that you could put in, but I would think it would be significantly higher than the RSP one.
Yeah, for sure. And then
Mhm.
the last piece there from the NDP, streamline funding for co-ops, social and nonprofit housing. Yeah, in sticking with what you had noticed there, they're looking for housing opportunities, perhaps not opportunities to create supply.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
to me, that's what we need to be doing. We're looking at opportunities to create supply. Yeah.
I agree completely. Yeah. I mean, they all have, pros. They all have things you maybe don't love so much. And they all have kind of clear perspectives on what their vision is for what their platform is. Definitely. It's always good to compare them, right? And look at all the different parties, not just even these three, but look at everybody and see, okay, who's across the board, who's doing the most to help, like for what I need or what I want or for what I feel the country needs, right? Or the province needs. So, um, yeah, do your research, I guess, is what we're going to throw out there. But from a real estate perspective, they're hitting on a lot of the key issues right now. They're missing a few, but they're hitting on a lot of them, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And again, this was
Mhm.
for informational purposes. CREA, CREA, they have a great website or landing page which offers a lot of this type of information, so you can kind of dive in it when you're. It's nice to be all on one page and just kind of analyze it and go through it and research it together, as opposed to going to each individual website and pulling it out. But a lot of obviously all three of these parties, or even more of the parties, have their own website and platforms that you can view. But educate yourselves, and perhaps most importantly, out of all this, Jen, that we can say this is our right as Canadians, is to vote. So use that and vote, and that's something that we are very thankful for to have that freedom to vote for whomever we want, and take that opportunity for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's kind of talk about the summer and what's going on here.
Yeah.
Okay, now we flip sides. How crazy is that? Good.
Threw me off a little bit, actually.
Yeah, keep the audience excited and whatever, confused. Maybe that's it, or us.
Yeah. Yeah. Confuse
Beautiful.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do we want to go? It's funny because I know you mentioned it earlier. The market's it's kind of quiet right now, and then we kind of chuckled. Well, maybe it actually isn't. Right?
Yeah. It's like sneaky. The market is sneaky,
Good word
right?
for it. I like it.
That's what I would say. It is quiet on the big picture, right? When we look at the volume and agents taking vacation and buyers kind of checking out and things like that, we are seeing a lot of that. But on the flip side, and I know, Gary, you had some personal experience with this a week ago, and a couple of my coaching guys have been going through this. Our inventory is extremely low, so there are still buyers out there shopping. And those homes that are on the market are going into multiples, and not just one or two offer multiples. We're talking like significant amounts of multiples, which is an interesting indicator for what the fall is going to bring when everybody kind of checks back in, right? So I think what we're seeing right now is that for the people shopping and for the homes on the market, it's still a challenging market despite it feeling quiet. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, no, I think it feels quiet because we're not seeing a whole rush of new listings and things like that. So
yeah,
from that perspective, it's quiet. But if you're working with 3 or 4 buyers, or heck, if you're working with one buyer, it can be as stressful as any time in the year at the moment, because as you said, like, things are going pretty much every property that, not everything that comes onto market goes to multiples, but the one that your client is interested in, it's going to multiples. How's that for karma or for Murphy's Law? Yeah.
Well, that's because those are the good properties, right? Traditionally, because we're pointing them in the right direction, and those ones are selling extremely well. I know that I know you were in offers was it last week you were telling me, and there's 29. Is that
29.
right?
Yeah.
29 offers. Yeah, one of the girls in coaching, 9 offers last night. I know Vincent, one of our agents, I think he had 14 or 15 offers on his listing last week, right? Like the offer numbers had dropped down. We were at 2 and 3 and 5, and now we're back up into those double digits. Because the buyer demand is still there, but our inventory is low right now. Very, very low, right? We're on the low end, and we'll see what happens once the fall rolls around, if that inventory picks up. I mean, it's September tomorrow, but you know what I mean. The fall market, as we roll into it, what that's going to look like. From what I can tell, buyers are still trying to buy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
leading that to the other conversation we were having is like, what are you supposed to be doing right now, Gary, as an agent? Like, what's the best thing you can do now to have a good fall? Because we know the window's closing on that fall market if you haven't already done the work, right? So what can we do now to kind of benefit from the fact that not everybody knows what's going on, and the headlines are a little misleading at the moment in regard to what like the outlets are saying, the media is saying about the market. I saw an article earlier saying like, oh, the housing market continues to cool, and I wasn't sure where they were talking about, but it wasn't here. And things. So there's different perceptions out there. So going back to my question, like, what's the one thing we can be doing right now, Gary?
Yeah. And I think it always comes back to this, Jen. So this should be your answer. Anytime, Jen, me, doesn't matter who, yourself, ask this. And that's where is it? That's this little beauty right here. Pick up the phone and just talk to people. Make arrangements. Go hang out with people and just connect with people and ask them what's going on. And the last 3, 4, we'll call it outings. So everyone knows that I love 2 things. When it comes to sports, I love watching and playing soccer, and I love mountain biking. And every time I go, I don't bring it up. I don't bring real estate up, but the people there around me know what I do, and they ask me. And it's just creating those relationships, deepening those relationships. And you want to be, do the things that you need to do. So when somebody says real estate to that person, they think of you.
Yeah.
Whatever
Exactly.
that is, right? Maybe taking them out for coffee, just whatever. We talked about it on the last one a few weeks ago, Jen, those drop bys. I think those are awesome.
Yeah.
Like the little, whether it's a little gift bag or basket or whatever, a high five or a fist pump, whatever we're doing these days, right? Whatever that is,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about providing value, right? When we come from contribution and, we have this happen all the time, Gary, I know you do too. When we get asked those questions, there's no hesitation in giving an answer, right? We're open to talking about the market. I'm giving out free information. I'm giving some of my opinion, my thoughts, my professional approach to things without any expectation of it coming back in return, anything coming back to me. A, because I care that they do the right thing and make the right decision, whether they hire me or they don't hire me. But B, because I know that they're more likely to hire me if I approach it that way, because they know that I'm forthcoming and honest and giving them guidance and advice without any expectations. And that's what's going to build that trust, right? And we know that people hire who they trust. So, some people approach those conversations with scarcity, and not wanting to give all the information or trying to book an appointment, and I'm not saying that's wrong. If you can get to an appointment from that, good for you. That's amazing. But most of the time they're asking for general information, right? So it's always about, how do you solve their problem? How do you give them that advice? And going back to your answer on the phone, you're right. I know I teed that up pretty lightly for you, but the thing, I was talking to one of the coaching guys today, and I was saying, those people that you talked to in the spring that didn't buy, or that listing that didn't sell, or that they were going to go on the market and then they didn't, call those guys. Tell them what's going on with the market right now, and ask them, are you still thinking about buying a home or selling a home in whatever area? That's your script, right?
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. It's simple, but you make the engagement and at least ask, because they might not know that their position has potentially improved, and they might be happy to hear that. You just never know. right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting because on Sunday over the weekend, I was at my 80th, my aunt's 80th birthday party.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
last winter, we didn't think she was going to make it. And now she's doing absolutely amazing. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it was really, really cool. And so we're sitting there, we're all kind of enjoying the incredibly hot afternoon, but it's all
So
good.
hot.
We're not
Yeah.
complaining.
Yeah.
And it was my cousin's husband came over to me and just started chatting with me. He goes, no, I get all your emails. I get all your videos. And I'm standing there looking like acting like, of course he does. Right. But I had no
Yeah.
idea, or I had forgotten he was on my email or my distribution list. And he was asking me all these questions. So just as you said, you come from value, come from that place of contribution, because you never know who's watching, who's listening, and or who forwards that email or information. So just, you're right, just keep providing value. And
Yeah.
and those, yes, those conversations will come organically, but they come organically, Jen, because we're both active.
Right. You create them. It's organic in how it ends, right? The end result is organic in how they approach you, but the build up to the end result is actually very proactive on our end to
Absolutely.
create that organic response, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite type of lead gen is when people call me. Jen knows that.
Me too.
But
Me too.
right. But how do we
Yeah.
do that? And that's by sending out, valuable information and
Yeah.
everything around that. We just finished KW Mega Camp, and a lot of it was around that. How do we
Yeah.
provide so much value that people are just calling us?
A lot of relationship content actually on this one, right? Online leads and relationships seem to be the two biggest areas of discussion, which kind of shows you where our industry's headed, right? The not to say that the other methods and set aren't as important, because they're equally as important and equally as effective. However, I think the trends are shifting a little bit in regard to how people build and run their businesses. And I noticed that with Mega Camp this last week, that the topics were a little different than I was actually expecting. I was
Right.
surprised by it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. Well, if you're with Keller Williams Realty Centers, we are excited for the fall months, our next season, if you will. And
Yeah.
we've got our team meeting coming up on September 16th, which is in person. If you're available and you're around and you're comfortable to meet in person, we're meeting at the Venetian in Aurora, which actually seats about 250 people, although we are capping it at 150 people, and we have the entire conference room, so they're opening it right up. We went earlier today with, in fact, your husband, Jen Dillon, to just kind of remind ourselves what we need and what it looks like. But we are incredibly excited. Some big announcements, and I don't even have permission to say this, but I'm going to say it. We are. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but we are launching 5 new initiatives that are going to just change the way we do business at KW Realty Centers. It is going to give our agents so much more ammunition. Yeah, ammunition. That's the word.
Yeah. Good word.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And tools to better serve their clients. We are incredibly excited. I don't even have permission to say that, but I just did it. So no one's around to say no, Jen.
Exactly. No one can stop us. And now it's been put out into the internet, so there's no taking it back.
That's
That's
right.
going to be a record, though. I love that. 5 is, I don't even think I know all 5. I
No,
know of
I
a
don't think
few
you
of
do.
them,
We've been working on a
but I don't.
couple.
Yeah, I don't think I know all of them. So I'm just excited to be in a room with people. There's some people that we coach that I've never met in person.
Right,
It's
yeah.
all been on Zoom, right? And it kind of throws you off a little bit when you finally see them in person. You're like, oh, I know what you look like, but you're real. You're
Yeah,
real
yeah.
life. Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to
I
to
often
get to meet
get,
some people.
I see your smiling face, but wow, you're a lot shorter than I thought you were.
Really?
It's all good. I'm kidding. Yeah. 5 new initiatives, and yes, it'll be in person. We will be recording it. We are, cross our fingers, looking for the solution to stream it. So Dylan, myself, and Mike Russo, we're looking into that, and that'll be our preference. But if not, it definitely will be recorded. And we are really, really excited about that for sure. So, and our training calendar is coming out. It should be in your email boxes either tonight or first thing tomorrow. There's a lot of great stuff happening over the next month and into the fall. Locally and nationally as well. So some good stuff there. And we are working on, Jen, nationally, our next Ignite launch. So stay tuned for that as well. And anything else, Jen?
I don't think so. I think I'm trying to think if there's anything I can add on to that, but I think you hit it. I think you got everything, Gary.
Good. Here they are. Oh, didn't see them. Those are the 5 initiatives. Awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Well, everybody, have a wonderful day. We'll see everyone on the next show. And in September, they start happening more frequently. And of course, you can watch us and connect with us on the replays and listen to us on your favorite podcast player of choice. Bye for now.
Bye.